You think you've got my number figured out? A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. I wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Thursday stream. It is Friday Junior. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone's doing all right. Michael Hassler, Wolfglen, welcome. All right, folks. We've got quite a few things to cover, and on Monday, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be a stream. We'll have to see. So I'll make another announcement before we go. But Monday probably there's not going to be a stream. I hear Sam was mad. Yeah, at the representative, right? He called the representative. At least I think that's what that was about. Let me just take a quick peek. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was either that or he was angry at the Hakeem Jeffries thing with Jon Stewart. Can't remember. All right, folks, let's get started. If there is no stream on Monday, again, that seems to be the trajectory. If there is no stream on Monday, what we will do on Tuesday, we're going to actually take a history lesson and go back to what exactly happened in Nazi Germany, and specifically how Hitler was able to destroy the democracy there. We have an article that we're going to go over today, and then we're going to have a history YouTube video that we're going to go over the next time we stream. So definitely something that I think is pretty important and highly relevant now. All right, before we get started, folks, the usual announcements. Thank you guys for being here. If you want to support the channel, don't forget, hit the follow button. If you're on the YouTube, keep liking the stream. Thank you. I see that there's quite a little bit of a YouTube crew going on there. So thank you guys for supporting on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. And if you want to keep up with the channel, make sure you join the Discord so you get announcements as to what's going on. Subscribe to the Substack if you want to support the channel directly. Hit up the merch store and the ! tip command if you want to support the channel directly. Let's get started, folks. Okay. I don't think this one needs much introduction. A lot of this stuff is not so radical nowadays.
The amount of people that are struggling out there because of these billionaires, and they got us all arguing liberal and conservative. We got to stop doing that. Like, I am so tired of hearing about people going to bed worried about what's going to happen next week. There is so much money in this country. And there's so much work being done, you know. And if you work a full week at a job, you should be able to pay your rent. You shouldn't have to go out and get another job and still be struggling.
Amen. Thank you for the follow, Ogilla. I appreciate it. Welcome.
It's bad for the country because then the kids don't see their parents and they're not getting the upbringing that they need. It's so
billionaires are a problem. In like it's a moral failing on society to allow billionaires to exist because of just how like pernicious and corrosive billionaires are. The billionaire class, the capital class, is for society. I mean, this is a perfect example. Ladybug, welcome. This is actually a perfect example. When you have people working multiple jobs, right? Not being able to see their kids very often because most of the time they're working, you know, besides the kid being at school. But most of the time they're working and just to keep the lights on.
So fucking these fucking billionaires. They need to be put down. You know, like fucking rabid dogs. They're like rabid with fucking greed and just going out and just dividing everybody.
That glorious rant you just heard was from the latest episode of Bill Burr's podcast, and I've got to say, he is very quickly becoming the George Carlin of his generation because he's consistently one of the few comedians to actually speak truth to power these days. He's punching up as opposed to punching down, and this is in spite of the fact that he has found fame and fortune for himself. He just never lost touch with regular people, apparently, and that anger that he's feeling towards billionaires is felt by the rest of us who lost everything so billionaires like Elon Musk could have it all. And make no mistake about it, this is a zero-sum game. He's correct to frame it that way. Billionaires are directly enriching themselves at the expense of the working class. We're talking about modern-day robber barons who accumulated their wealth by stealing it from the rest of us. I mean, ask yourself, do you think that Jeff Bezos, who's worth an estimated $250 billion, really worked hard enough to earn that much money?
Nope. Nope, that is on the mountains of exploited workers, right? And the fact that he was propped up by his parents, right? Like, Amazon would not have existed if not for Mommy and Daddy Bezos giving him like the equivalent of what would be like a very, very generous investment. At the time, it was like $300-something thousand, right? So yeah, I mean, like in today's money, yeah, that's a hefty investment. That is probably worth more than my house.
Does anyone actually believe that he works harder than a single Amazon employee who takes home around $78,000 a year? Of course not.
Nope. Yeah, and the denial of unionization. Right, exactly. Crushing the denial of unionization, the cutting of safety, lobbying for tax cuts, like all this kind of stuff just together is the reason why Jeff Bezos is Jeff Bezos. The fact that corporations are people and can funnel, for all intents and purposes, unlimited amount of money for campaigns. It's just like this giant feedback loop.
His employees generate all the wealth for Amazon, and the executives at the top keep it for themselves, and they leave their workers with crumbs by comparison. This is theft. That's what that is. And that would be bad enough in and of itself, but to make matters worse, The working conditions are absolutely atrocious. Amazon employees are overworked to the point where they have to piss in bottles to save time and increase productivity for their bosses. And there's little that they can do because of that power imbalance. You know, they can try to form a union to increase their collective bargaining power, but Amazon responds to that oftentimes by engaging in union busting and even shuts down warehouses that unionize. This is what happened at an Amazon warehouse in Quebec. The workers voted to unionize, and then the warehouse got shut down, and then all 1,700 workers lost their jobs. Now, of course, Amazon claims that this wasn't because of the union, but we all know that that's complete bullshit. They shut down that warehouse because they wanted to send a message to all the other workers. Unionize, and this is going to be your fate too. You will lose your job if you do that. And they even set up this dynamic where they actually pit workers against each other, where bosses try to root out potential union activity by encouraging workers to turn on each other and rat out their coworkers in order to pressure them that they have to do that to save their own jobs. And this is not conjecture. When I worked at Walmart, on the first day of my job at orientation, they showed us an anti-union video and taught us what to look out for, certain signs that our coworkers might be unionizing. You know, if one of them, for example, was inexplicably more friendly or talkative, that could be a sign that they're trying to form a union and you should be suspicious of them. And I promise you, this is a very common practice because...
That's actually delusional. That's wild. My local branch is unionizing. Nice! Nice. Nice.
These billionaires are that fucking greedy. And there's never been a time in modern history where the greed has been so in our faces. We're in an era of income and wealth inequality that has surpassed the Gilded Age. And even though they have it all the money, all the power, they bought off almost all of our politicians, that is still not enough for them.
Yep.
In fact, one billionaire just made the greatest investment of all time.
They want more. It's a disease. It's a disease of greed. Yeah, or they want to... or they want to date you. It's a disease of greed.
Elon Musk. He donated more than $200 million to Donald Trump's campaign, and now he's probably going to propel himself to trillionaire status by hollowing out the government agencies that are supposed to be regulating him. As More Perfect Union points out, Doge and Trump have gone after and weakened or even halted enforcement at least 11 federal agencies which have been investigating Musk's companies. The agencies have at least 32 continuing investigations pending complaints or enforcement actions into Musk's 6 companies. Now, the New York Times put together a more comprehensive breakdown of all the specific actions taken to shield Musk from accountability. For example, Trump crippled the National Labor Relations Board by firing top officials. I mean, this agency was investigating 2 companies owned by Elon Musk for alleged worker rights violations, but they're no longer able to reach a quorum, which means that they can't do anything to investigate Elon Musk. The agency has been brought to a standstill, and conveniently, they're not even defending themselves in court against the lawsuit by Elon Musk and other billionaires to rule that the agency itself is unconstitutional altogether. But there's also the FEC, which was looking into campaign finance violations of Elon Musk. Trump tried to remove the chairwoman to shield Musk from another lawsuit. Moreover, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was looking into complaints lobbed at Tesla, and they were also overseeing a deal between Visa and Twitter. And Elon Musk just announced that he unilaterally killed that agency too. And of course, there's also USAID, the first agency that Musk targeted. And as David Sirota points out, that agency's inspector general was also investigating Elon Musk, but the agency, as you now know, has been gutted, and the inspector general has been illegally fired by Donald Trump without the 30-day notice he's required by law to give. And this brazenly self-serving endeavor is being done out in the open. And Elon Musk has the audacity to insult the intelligence of the American people and tell us that he's doing all of this for us when he's obviously acting in his own self-interest. Now, a lot of Americans are stupid enough to believe that, but not all of them. In fact, not even most of them. Because most polls show Americans don't want an unelected billionaire meddling in government agencies to the benefit of his multiple corporations.
But right, like that's I think that like another issue is that I don't think that the broad public understands or has realized the severity of what's happening right now, right? I'm not sure the public, as broadly speaking, are really aware at just how horrifying things are right now. Mama Katie, their greed cannot be satisfied and it's going to destroy all of us. True.
Trump has reiterated that there's no corruption to be seen here and assured the public that Musk is policing his own conflicts of interest. In fact, we're being told that Elon Musk can't even have conflicts of interest. It's just not possible.
If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is
Yes,
that
which we
a
definitely
conflict
need
of
to do
interest?
and are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that settles it then, right? The world's richest man, who also happens to be a compulsive liar and a Nazi, says that he's giving taxpayers a good deal, so it must be true. Listen, things are so bad that I honestly miss the days when they would lie better. Do you know what I mean? Like, they would at least put in a little bit more effort to convince us to not believe our lying eyes so as to not be as patronizing, but these days, they're not even bothering to try. He didn't Sig Heil everyone. He was just telling the crowd that his heart goes out to them.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's because he doesn't have to, right? I think it's because he doesn't have to, right? We live in a post truth society, right? Where like the truth is whatever I say it is, and that's that. It's calling child services. Seriously, poor kid. I think just being around Elon Musk it's child endangerment. But yeah, we live in a post-truth society. So yeah, that's why this kind of is really difficult, and it's also why they don't really need to try anymore. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, to be quite frank. Pirate Ninja, welcome. What's the kid's name? Kevlar? I don't know. I don't know the kid's name.
This isn't an unconstitutional power grab. It's an attempt to restore democracy. And that's literally what he told reporters this is.
So at a high level, if you say what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to, if you sorry.
Oh my god. Yep. He calls the kid X. That's his name. Okay. You know, like how he lost custody or how he won that custody battle is beyond me. His proper name is I'm not even going to try. X is that Lambda? I don't know. Oh god. What does the kid whisper to Trump? I think he said something to the effect of like, "You're not the president," or "You need to shut your effing mouth." I forget which one of those that was. We can try to listen to it. Apparently, it's pronounced X Ash A12. My goodness.
Is to restore democracy.
He said something, "You need to go away." Something, "You need to go away" is what he's saying.
It's an attempt to restore democracy. And that's literally what he told reporters this is.
So at a high level, if you say what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to, if you sorry. Tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes.
The extent to which this is Orwellian can never be.
Corellia, welcome. Prediction: RFK is going to ban vaccine requirements for school children. Make schools serve raw milk. Wonder how many times Elon has said that to Trump. Who is the president? President Elon. That's who runs the show right now. President Elon. Also, damn, I almost feel bad for Trump. Bro looks so dejected.
Overstated. Like, they have completely inverted the truth. Up is down, left is right, and they expect us to actually buy this horseshit. And I'm sorry, why the fuck is your kid at a press conference with you? Are you that starved for attention, Elon Musk? Could you not afford a nanny so as to at least have this veneer of seriousness with our fucking government? Oh, and if you're wondering why, by the way, the president was sitting there like a cuck in a chair, well, it's because he just signed an executive order compelling agencies to cooperate with the illegal rat fucking that this billionaire Nazi donor is doing. Cool. Now, I want to be clear. What Musk is doing isn't just bad because it's illegal and because of the various conflicts of interest. It's also bad because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Neither does Donald Trump. For example, there's...
Yeah, I mean, like never mind, like, all that. But he's right. Like, he just simply doesn't know what he's doing. And he is screwing with stuff that he has absolutely no clue, no business being around. He's got no security clearance, no oversight, no and no clue of what he's doing. So, like, it's all screwed in so many different ways. Lappin, welcome. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And the ramifications of what he's doing is huge. Like, he's screwing with the treasury. The impact of this cannot be understated. That's why I'm thinking, like, you know, the proverbial pitchforks haven't come out yet, because I don't think the broader public really has a grasp on what actually is happening here. Like, we are talking about not just screwing ourselves, like, you know, just screwing the systems that handle all of the government's money, but it also has some downstream effects. Like, there's no reason why you, as an investor, as an outside country, as an ally, would want to make trade deals, would want to invest in the dollar. Why? Because, like, that's all compromised. All of that is compromised. Watch for some banks to collapse. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that starts happening.
There's even talk of abolishing the FDIC, which was an agency that was created during the Great Depression. And to be clear, getting rid of this agency could put our entire banking system at risk.
Yep.
Not to mention, Musk is also trying to line item veto payments in the Treasury that were already appropriated by Congress.
Right, like as Lappin just pointed out. Yeah, I mean, if he does that, like, we're beyond screwed, right? Like, as far as, like, this country's, like, gonna collapse, like, very quickly. It's actually, like, that should terrify people. Like, this is terrifying. And I'm not sure that people really, like, have grasped the seriousness of this.
That could threaten the full faith and credit of the United States. So, I mean, things are really bad, and these morons couldn't care less if they destroy the country or crash the economy because they're only in it for themselves. everyone should be insulted by the fact that they're robbing us and lying to us at the same time. They're trying to convince us that it's not what it looks like when it is. And I want to restate that point again. They are robbing us, not figuratively, not metaphorically, literally. All of these cuts and austerity at our expense is being done to finance another massive tax cut for the rich. Let me show you what I mean. Brian Tyler Cohen points out, and there it is, Republicans have proposed a $4 trillion debt limit increase. This is necessary to pass sweeping tax cuts for oligarchs like Elon Musk. Now, at the same time, as More Perfect Union points out, House Republicans have released their budget resolution. They're aiming to cut Medicaid by at least $880 billion and cut SNAP
Give me one
by at
second,
least
folks.
20%. This means people are going to starve. And as David Dayen put it, they want to take food and medicine away from poor people and give that money to billionaires instead. And please don't think that your Social Security is safe either, because Elon Musk is already using the same justification Republicans always use to gut social safety net programs by claiming that they're rife with fraud and abuse and should thus be targeted. Now, keep in mind, he presented zero evidence for this claim and immediately revealed his true intention because a right-wing influencer responded to his tweet about this, saying that these programs are the largest fraud in history.
We're living through an inevitable problems on the road to becoming an advanced civilization, and aside from the horrific consequences, it's very exciting. I'm not sure what's exciting about all of this, but yeah. Not exactly sure about what's exciting about a techno-fascist takeover, but okay.
And Elon Musk agreed with that. Tells you everything you need to know. And just stop for a moment and think about how despicable this is. The richest man on earth is calling Social Security and other social safety net programs inherently fraudulent. That's our money. We pay into Social Security for our entire working lives, but rather than giving us back that money that we earned, Musk and his billionaire buddies want to take that money and use it to finance even more tax cuts to them and their companies. I'll say it again. This is a robbery. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, but it's still not enough. He still wants more. He wants to become the world's first trillionaire, and your money is going to help him reach that goal. It's socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for everybody else. Bill Burr was absolutely right to say that they are rabid with greed. And to be clear, American taxpayers already helped Elon Musk become the richest man in the world, as Representative Greg Kasar recently explained.
Mr. Talcove, do you know how much money a day Mr. Musk will receive from the federal government for his contracts?
No.
The answer is $8 million a day. Just last year, Elon Musk was promised $3 billion from close to 100 contracts with the federal government. Ms. Royal, do you know how much the average person in this country who survives on Social Security, one of our seniors who's worked their entire life, about how much they have to survive on a day?
I do not.
$65 a day. We're not looking into Elon Musk's $8 million a day. This subcommittee, chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene and the House Republicans, is looking into your grandmother's $65 a day. Let me be clear. I think we would all support taxpayer savings, look into money we might needlessly send to billionaires and big corporations, find taxpayer savings, and send it back to your hardworking family. But instead, what House Republicans and the Trump-Musk administration want to do is they want to look into your kids' lunch money, your kids' teacher's salary, into your grandparents' Social Security. They want to take that money and give it out in billionaire tax cuts, and they're talking about that in committee tomorrow. In Budget Committee tomorrow, they just released their plan. So let me be clear. When Republicans talk about government efficiency in this Congress, they're not looking into billionaires who don't pay their taxes. They're not looking into billionaires who get rich off of government contracts. They're not looking into Elon Musk firing watchdogs who are supposed to keep him accountable. They're looking at cutting your public schools. They're going straight for your Social Security. They're coming straight for cancer research. They're coming straight for the Department of Education. They're not looking at big tech. They're not looking at big pharma because those people fund their campaigns.
Exactly. He is robbing us blind while pretending like immigrants and trans people are really the cause of all of our problems. And it's insulting because as he pickpockets America, he's claiming that he's auditing these agencies for us while conspicuously avoiding the agencies with actual fraud like the Pentagon. Why? Well, because Elon Musk is a defense contractor himself, and he doesn't want to do a single thing to disrupt that gravy train. He's fine with disrupting your Social Security and Medicaid, but he
Of course, the Pentagon has never passed an audit, but yes, let's worry about Social Security. Correct. Musk is the biggest parasite on the government. I think so. Exactly. Why do you think he's breaking so many federal agencies? They already were.
He doesn't want the money to stop flowing to Tesla and all of his companies, SpaceX, you name it. And this was something that Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib pointed out. Like, if you want to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, why wouldn't you start with the Pentagon?
They have said that they want to shut down the Department of Education. All I keep thinking about is all of our children and students living with disabilities. Where are they going to go? Because those other schools never want them. The National Labor Relations Board. Do you know we still have a wage theft crisis in our country continually? People having the right to organize and them getting shot down over and over again. We need the National Labor Relations Board. And FEMA. I mean, over and over again, we've seen disaster after disaster. They have also set their eyes, and you know this from the beginning.
Like, not about fraud or abuse, because, like, they're literally going after, like, the programs that prevent fraud and abuse, right? So, like, it's all bullshit. They're going after, like, the National Labor Relations Board. They're going after the Consumer Protection Bureau, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, right? Like, that's literally their only one job, is to make sure that there's no fraud and abuse. Like, breaking the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau while at the same time trying to make Twitter into an everything, including payment app. Yep. Which, if that happens, right? If Elon Musk is able to accomplish that, like, I wouldn't trust like flowing a single penny, through Twitter. I'm sorry, like, not even a single, not even a penny split in half would I give to Twitter. As a matter of fact, I don't even post there anymore, to be honest. I stopped posting and using the app in, like, November. Middle of November, I think. Critical Rad Theory, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Making sure you can't get sued when you get scammed on Twitter. Yep.
But, last year we saw the Pentagon budget go to $895 billion. So why didn't they start there? Why didn't they start with the Pentagon? The Pentagon can't even pass an audit. We know this. 7 audits. You talk about efficiency? No, in Detroit, we know you're lying. This is not about efficiency. It's because maybe Elon Musk, as Congresswoman Omar said, maybe it's because the $20 billion in federal contracts. That's where it is in the Pentagon budget. Maybe they have too many friends that have military defense contractor companies. Maybe that's why. Or maybe it's because members of Congress who vote to pass record-breaking Pentagon budgets actually benefit financially, personally, because they own stock in defense contracts. Maybe that's why they didn't start with the Pentagon budget. If they really, truly wanted to root out waste and corruption, they would have started with the Pentagon.
The only efficiency they're interested in is the efficient transfer of government money into Elon Musk's company's accounts. Correct. How are we living? We're hanging in there. We're hanging in there. Just got off work and filling my food hole. Nice. Large and in charge.
Bingo. That tells you everything you need to know.
Bingo,
Elon Musk
bango.
isn't doing this for us. He's doing it for him. Republicans aren't shrinking the size of government for us. They're doing it for their corporate donors. And side note, why isn't somebody like Rashida Tlaib, or Greg Kasar, the leader of the Democratic Party? I mean, that's a rhetorical question. I know why. But there are so many other talented people, so many leaders like Jasmine Crockett, AOC, Maxwell Frost, Ilhan Omar, and others. But yet, we're stuck with Hakeem fucking Jeffries, who's currently sucking up to Silicon Valley billionaires in order to repair the party's relationship with them, as opposed to repairing the relationship with the base that they lost during this last election. And don't even get me started on Chuck Schumer in the Senate. But, you know, it's worth noting that things wouldn't be as bad. Like, Elon Musk wouldn't be able to as easily loot these agencies for himself if we had a competent opposition party. But that's a different story for a different day. The point is that billionaires have hollowed out our government. And this has been done systematically over decades. But now it's culminated in this moment where I feel like it's not hyperbolic to say we're a straight up oligarchy. In fact, this was already determined in 2014 when a Princeton University study found that voters have a statistically insignificant impact on policy outcomes, whereas interest groups and economic elites get everything that they want. Why? Because we are a dying empire in a late-stage capitalist system that has devolved into a fascist oligarchy. And because money doesn't necessarily translate into competence or intelligence, we've replaced meritocracy with caucustocracy as well, which is accelerating our decline. So we are truly fucked. And while billionaires are robbing us, they're continuing to push the most divisive politics possible to keep us all fighting each other instead of them. And to get back to Bill Burr, he actually addressed this too on this latest episode of his podcast.
Just the fucking epitome of this time right now. Like how divisive we are, that like, you know, the Gulf of Mexico is now called the Gulf of America, and people get excited. Like, how the fuck does that help your wallet? It's an empty gesture, and then it's also like a racist gesture. Like, that's the white guy that's him saying fuck Mexicans without saying it.
Yeah, and like, you know, the same thing with the renaming of the of Mount Denali. And this is not just like me calling him a racist piece of shit for the sake of calling him a racist piece of shit. I mean, like, he's literally like making arguments that indigenous people aren't actually citizens of this country. Right? Like, he's literally talking about brown people, Hispanic people, Latin American people as he is quoted as poisoning the blood of this country. So, like, he is a racist piece of shit. This is not like it's just fact. Okay, so Bill Burr is correct.
You know. Like, who has a fucking problem with Mexicans? Like, what is the real problem? This is just such an ugly fucking time.
It's just ego and nothing else. It keeps his face on the TV. That's all he cares about. Yeah, but like, he's actually like that too. That's not like, you know, that's also true. They renamed Fort Bragg back. Yeah, but a different fort, a different Bragg. It's just so stupid.
He's right. And it's important to note that this is an ugly time on purpose. There's a reason why capitalism always devolves into fascism, because people become so desperate that they become susceptible to radicalization. They start to believe the rantings of a demagogue like Donald Trump. I mean, this is why people need to listen to political scientists who explain why these things happen. It's the difference between materialism and post-materialism. Developing countries don't make social progress because citizens there care more about their material well-being, housing, money, security. But as things improve and they develop and the standard of living goes up, citizens begin to focus more on post-material issues, things like social justice and civil liberties. But once their material conditions begin to deteriorate again, they shift their focus back to material issues, and progress towards social justice is stalled or outright reversed. That's what we're seeing right now as corrupt elites begin to use divide and conquer strategies once the bread and circus tactics of the past no longer distract the masses. So Bill Burr is 1,000% right to be angry with billionaires. We all should be angry with billionaires. If you're not mad, you're not paying attention. I get that that's a cliche, but it's so true. There's no such thing as a good billionaire. And if we lived in a just world, all of the money that these elites stole from us would be seized and they'd be jailed indefinitely. And we shouldn't forget about the very system that enabled these people to become billionaires in the first place, capitalism. That is...
Yeah, like, seriously, if Radiant Dragon Welcome and thank you for the follow. Seriously, if after all of this is said and done, okay, because like fascism isn't for forever, okay, and like these people don't know what they're doing, so just fingers crossed here. Fingers crossed here. These people have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Fascism inherently kind of self-destructs anyways. After all this said and done, there needs to be jail time. There needs to be serious jail time, specifically for people like Elon Musk, okay? People like Donald Trump, and anyone who enabled these highly illegal and unconstitutional actions to be taken, right? But at the top of the list, certainly Elon Musk and the people that are around him, the little Doge team, all right, the little Doge goons that are like not they're what, like 25, anywhere from 19 to 25. Yeah, those people also, because I'm pretty sure that like accessing those type of sensitive systems, not okay. Not okay. But definitely Elon, definitely Trump, and anyone who enabled and allowed this a gross violation of the law and the Constitution.
It's how we got to this point in the first place. It's because of capitalism. And the system that created this outcome is not going to be the system that's going to save us.
Correct. Yeah, the Doge bags. Exactly. Exactly. Like, I have a rhetorical question, right? Like, if I went to court, okay, and the judge gave me an order, if I went to court and the judge gave me an order and I disregarded the court order, what would happen to me, chat? Elon is an illegal alien. He shouldn't have access to any kind of government data. If you defied a court order, and I'm assuming you're not one of the billionaire class, they'll find you in contempt of court and you'd most likely end up in jail. Correct. That's exactly my point. That is exactly my point. Right? If you as a citizen, right? Or it doesn't really matter, honestly. If you as a person on this land, right? Because you're supposed to follow the law of the land, regardless, and you violate a court order, and the judge finds that you have been ignoring and violating court orders, you would be in jail. You would end up in jail. Right? I mean, how many times has Donald Trump violated judges' orders during his own trial where he was found guilty? I mean, like, this is no longer a joke. This is no longer, oh, you know, we have to, we shouldn't prosecute former presidents because we have to keep the country together. Nah, screw all that. Okay? Like, at what point do we say enough is enough? This is serious, okay? This is serious. What we're looking at is unprecedented. And I think it's difficult for people, for most of the normies to really grasp what's happening here. because we've never actually seen something like this before. Not like this. We've seen corruption, you know. We've seen corruption in a few different faces. But I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. And I think once more people start to understand what's happening, that's when I think things will start to change. Mouselander, welcome. Pitchfork time. Yeah, the proverbial pitchforks. Because if there's no Congress here, right? If there's no Congress and the judiciary is being ignored, then we have no checks and balances, and there's only there's only very few ways that can go. Okay.
There are people, whether it was that guy I talked to in the coffee shop who says, like, I don't know if I can pursue this stuff in history because of the NIH stuff, or the people who, you know, show up at daycare and there's no daycare because the government funding for it is frozen, or the people who are on Medicaid, their government funding is freezing, or the people who are all of a sudden like, wait a second, how come I'm getting double billed on my overdrafts again? Because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has rescinded that and is shut down, or the people trying to unionize and the NLRB can't adjudicate the unfair labor practice. We go on and on. There are real things happening on the ground. Democrats could be out there providing the context for these lived experiences of the American people. Instead, we have to rely on Dana Bash.
Oh, this is what I was talking about. Gotcha.
Here is Dana Bash bringing this up with Jason Smith. He's a Republican from Missouri's 8th District.
Dana Fash.
He's on the House and Ways and Means Committee. And he's responding to a video of a Missouri cattle farmer. Here it is.
Why take a sledgehammer instead of a scalpel if you just want to make sure that a lot of these funds, which you believe, and nobody's arguing this. I'm sure we know there's a lot of wasteful spending and maybe fraud.
Pause it. First of all, see, there's a problem with relying on Dana Bash to say this. Oh, we do. Is there a lot of wasteful spending? Do we, relative to what? To what's going on at CNN? I know people who work at CNN. I can tell you something. The amount of money that has been wasted, like, are they paying off?
Like I think that starting the conversation from this point is like, it's kind of like ceding ground when you don't need to, right? That's actually pretty funny. I'll do the poll in a second. You know, starting off by like, oh, well, you know, is there wasteful spending? Yeah, I guess so. And we should probably look at. No, that's not what these people are interested in. So why are we even talking about it? Right? They're not serious about actually making sure that people get their, you know, get this. They're not actually interested in making sure that the government works as best as it could for the people, right? Because that's the only business the government has. That's it. The only business the government has is to provide services for citizens, right? Whether it be defense, whether it be healthcare, whether it be infrastructure, so on and so forth. That is the job of the government, right? To provide these services and programs to help people. That's it. I like to see an unshuffle though. Less fluff, more facts. Let me do the poll while Sam goes off. Tonk Rocktopus, welcome. America's crashing down. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking great, to be quite honest.
Off people's contracts at CNN?
Look at anchor salaries.
I know. Never mind look at anchor salaries. Look at anchors who are no longer working there if they're still getting paid. I mean, what wasteful relative to what? To what we do in this office? We maximize everything here to 100%, incidentally.
Yeah.
Because of our efficiency standards. But I mean, you show me a major corporation or any large entity where there's more or less waste in relative.
Right, like that's why I think like this whole conversation is like when you engage with this to the extent that we can, Sam's correct. Like, why are we even talking about this? This whole that's a distraction to what's actually going on. Right? Like, because this is not about waste. So stop framing it as like, oh well, you said that you wanted to look into government waste and this. Yeah, man, like that's not the issue. Cat Pig, welcome. I worked at 3 giant companies and the level of waste just blows your mind. Much of government is actually fairly efficient, but like you say, this isn't about waste and it certainly isn't about fraud. Exactly. So like, you know, if they were actually serious about investigating and making things more efficient, they would start at the Pentagon, as we were watching earlier. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib talk about, right? But they're not going after that. So like this, the point being is, the conversation is not about this at all. And like, I think that Sam brings up a great point. We shouldn't even engage in that. Like, there's no point. Good for Gabby. Hey, welcome.
Relative to the U.S. government. But you have to do this because she has to both sides it. Go back.
Nobody's arguing this. I'm sure we know there's a lot of wasteful spending and maybe even fraud in the United States government. But in reality, some people are...
That's what you would call a red herring or a Mott and Bailey, where like no one is going to disagree with... no one's going to disagree with the statement we should probably root out corruption, right? But like that's not what's actually happening. A straw man? Yeah, okay, there you go. That's the right one. All right. Don't at me. Don't at me, but anyways. Yes, this is just like a complete distraction. This makes no sense whatsoever. Okay? Hello, welcome. Quid pro quo wins the poll. Welcome, Good for Gabby. Nice to have you in the Twitch chat. Energy extraction companies have thousands of times more land than they actually need. The land could be used for rebuilding the country's carbon sequestration cycle, cleaning out air, etc., etc. Yeah, correct.
Getting hurt. I just want to give you one example, Mr. Chairman. The blanket freeze on USDA funds. It's hitting some of the farmers in your state. I want you to listen to Skylar Holden. He's a cattle farmer from southern Missouri, just outside your district. He's a Trump voter. He signed a contract with USDA to partially fund improvements on his farm. And now he says he doesn't know if he's going to get the money back.
Hi, it's Mark Barden from Sandy Hook Promise, and I'm asking for your help to demand that Congress...
They said it could only last a week or two, could last a day, could last months, or they could not pay out at all. There's really no answers. They're trying to cut out all the wasteful spending in the government, which I'm all for, but the issue is it's a signed contract, it's a legally binding contract. They're not backing out on it, they're not paying out on it, so it puts me in a bind because I've made business decisions based on that contract.
What do you say to Skylar Holden and people in that predicament?
What I would say is Congress, that the government needs to do a better job at working for the American people. Too often, it seems like the American people's working for the government, and the whole purpose of freezing and putting a hold on everything right now is to review to make sure it's working the way that Congress and the executive is supposed to implement.
So where is Congress doing this job? They literally have an oversight committee. There's literally an office called the Government of Accountability Office, the GOA. It's your freaking job, bro. That's why you're there. Yeah, Christy Noem, you shouldn't trust the government. Ma'am, you are the government. Oh, man, these cell phones. That was a long-winded way of saying he can go F himself. Yep.
It's unfortunate that this is the case. I've been talking with several farmers that have been experiencing this and trying to help guide them through this process. But it's all going to work out. Right now, it's a little bit disruptive, but that's
It's all going to give me an aneurysm. I feel that.
This administration promised whenever they were coming to Washington,
So
is
when
that they would
he-
be disruptive and look at ways to make the government more efficient and working for the people.
So when he is in a position where he's worried that if he doesn't get the money that was promised, that was passed by Congress.
Now, imagine for a moment, I want you to just do the thought experiment. Imagine if Democrats are out there talking about every single person like this guy, whether he's relying on a contract from the USDA or he's a father of a child who's going to child care who's frozen, or he may go into study some type of biology or to do some research, or on and on and on. Even the banks are freaking out because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau did some type of like measure. One of its jobs is to do the measure of like some type of average mortgage rate so that it can make sure that mortgages are within, that are being issued by different banks are within that average rate. And if they're not outside that rate, they're subject to different regulations and whatnot. The banks got their, we need this back. Okay. But imagine if Democrats in Congress are saying, instead of saying, we don't have any leverage because we don't have the votes in the House or the Senate, and we don't have the presidency. Imagine they're saying, the only leverage we have is the American public. Because we're going on a tour right now.
Yeah, exactly. The bully pulpit. Right? Because that didn't stop Trump from yapping. That didn't stop Trump from yapping for 4 years. I've spoken to many farmers who wholeheartedly believe that the leopards will never eat their face. You know, all that money needs to go to their donors. The leopards aren't picky about faces, correct?
And every one of we're not going to vote on anything. There's no point in doing it. If the president thinks that he can unilaterally not do this, we're not going to vote. We're going to go back to our districts, or we're going to hold remote town halls with our districts so that Republicans can't take a quick vote. And we're going to, my staff has found 3 people who are getting screwed by what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing right now. And we're going to show them that government does stuff. And yes, we look into waste and fraud. Inspector generals do that in the agencies, and he fired every single one of them. Like, somebody needs to explain this to the American public. And it ain't going to be Dana Bash. We hear the Democrats resent and reject that they're not doing anything.
To be fair, nothing will ever stop Trump from yapping. That's true. Killer B Nation, welcome. Still his lips shut.
If the activists calling you are not aware of what you're doing, who is? Who is? Absolute political malpractice. Absolute political malpractice. And they undercut anybody within the Democratic Party who's good at it. We will win. We will win. Oh, you guys are going to win? Who's the we? Unbelievable. At the Missouri meeting that the Skylar Holden was at, another farmer named Wes Moreland replied to Skylar. And what he said was perfect. Please find and play that audio. It was as good as what Farmer Kowalski could do. Cole from Little Rock says, I guarantee that was a USDA REAP grant for solar. Before I was laid off, we lost multiple contracts because that money was taken away from farmers and businesses.
Yep, face.
And Homunculus Pop asked the obvious question, why do you have to turn off payments to determine if things are efficient. Like what?
And saying if we turn off something then we shouldn't have turned off, we can just unturn it off. It's a big joke. And it's wild because, everyone should know it's a joke, but the press, like we pointed out, or Atrios pointed out, they just keep granting the premise that this is about efficiency.
Yeah.
Tyler in Colorado says, I work for an inspector general. What Doji is doing right now is far from an audit. It's laughable. His claims about condoms and social security number duplications are mistakes that interns make. Incidentally, there are no social security duplicate numbers. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, also, like, if they're actually performing audits about this is how you know, like, the whole thing is a freaking farce, man. Is like, if they're actually performing audits, right? If they're actually performing audits about, like, the finances of the nation, then explain to me why they need fucking programmers to do financial audits. I love this emote. This must be a new emote. Nice. Thank you, Cognizant, for the 30 biddies. Appreciate it. But when you're looking at that number of transactions, you probably want some coders. Well, when you're looking at, but like, you want people who can audit. You want people who can actually understand what they're looking at financially. You would want, like, accountants, right? I never really considered that until now. Well, you want accountants assisted by programmers. So where are they? Weird how the billionaire with an economics major knows nothing about accounting. Programmers have zero skills in finance typically. Yep. Really, you would need like a forensic accountant to do this kind of thing. Definitely not a programmer. That's what I'm getting at, right? Like, I may have the nomenclature incorrect, but the point being is, like, if you were actually interested about, like, finding out what's going on, then you would want the people that are qualified to actually do that kind of job, right? That's how you know the whole thing is like a freaking the whole thing is a freaking farce, man.
Kowalski from Nebraska. That's what I IM'd back on Monday. That farmer in particular is an asshole. But the problem is that the president tried to cut funding to the IRA. This was a program through the USDA that was funded by the IRA, which is a law passed through Congress. The president can't overturn a law from Congress. The Democrats should be making this go to a vote on the House and Senate floor and let the Republicans kill these farmers directly.
Really, you would need a forensic accountant to do this kind of thing, but not a programmer. Elon's hacking our system. Correct. Baby Elon wouldn't recognize competence if it hit him in the face. Right, but some of those goons that he brought in do know what they're doing. So, yeah. And the question is, what are they doing there? Yeah. What are they doing there? We still don't know, by the way. We can guess. As Catpick points out, we can guess, pulling personal information, funneling in as much data, perhaps about even his competitors. I mean, like, we just don't know. But he definitely is in those sensitive systems, and there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Yana's meat shield tells Trump to shut up.
100%. That's another thing the Democrats could be doing. You want to cut USAID? Introduce the bill. Where's the bill? Where's the bill? Every day, where's the bill? Where's the law? You want to cut funding to farmers? Where's the law? Where's the bill?
It is a glaring that they're just leaning on Doge and they have a trifecta and there's no legislation even sniffed at.
Not even sniffed at. And the reason why you see Democrats run around like chickens with their heads cut off is because there is no head.
Reportedly, I think by Wired, they actually put code in, and you just don't send in some noob to pushing code into a system like that without review. It's preposterous. These people think they're IT geniuses, and they've got the knowledge of the average first-year student. It's really freaking terrifying, man. It's really freaking terrifying. And like some of them are, I think there's one of these individuals was a part of a criminal hacking organization. I mean, like, again, I reiterate this, like, the people, the general, broad public, just, I don't think grasps the severity of what's really happening here. And the guy they call Big Balls actually ran a cyber attack for hire service. Seems secure to me. Yeah, okay, that's who I'm talking about. He was part of a cyber criminal organization. As we already discussed, obviously, if you're looking for accounting mistakes, you would probably want some finance people. Yeah, or the people that handle that kind of stuff, not some freaking 25-year-old goon.
Busy trying to raise money in Silicon Valley. Chuck Schumer's burning up the phones with Meta. Hey, what happened? I've been your friend. The Baileys. The Baileys love Facebook. Just insane. Just an absolute failure of just politics. Just basic politics. Chicago letter carrier. I'm going to read 10 IM, so we got to get out of here. It's so late. I got to record some stuff afterwards. I'm sorry, Matt. Chicago letter carrier. Any chance Tyler Vassar will be on show soon? I think in a week. Gold Rush John. Sam is going to get a taste of his own medicine being put on hold for a super long time. LOL. I'm going to make more of these phone calls. Now that I updated Skype, I might as well. Welder caller has a fear of success. Give it a shot. Well, Welder also may not have much time. Clumsy poet.
Jesus, Sam, you're still using Skype? I saw a lot of states are suing because of Elon. It's okay if it'll do any good. I don't know if it'll do any good. They're probably searching people's computers to find any reason to fire people.
I fear for my survival as a recent cancer haver. All the knowledge spoiled because of panic and pain. More invasive treatments, more disability. Texas left. Doesn't Chuck's daughter work for Meta? I'm not sure about that.
She's been kind of bouncing all over Silicon Valley.
John from T-Burg.
Good for Gabby subbing with a tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Was calling in with a quick story about PSLF. What is PSLF? There is a new to me, at least, buyback request available. This would allow those who have 120 months of qualifying employment to essentially buy select months of deferment or forbearance that previously weren't included or considered qualifying payments.
It's the public service loan forgiveness.
Presumably, this would allow anyone in their final months waiting on the resolution of the SAVE plan, suits a workaround, and get their loans forgiven. Grain of salt, as I'm only just learning about this myself, but people should check studentaid.gov. They're close to that 120, but have been held up over the years by administrative forbearance and injunctions, if they're close to that 120. Interesting. Oh boy, please read my email. I think it's important. Subject line regarding ExpressVPN. Okay. J-Bags. Do they...
Yeah, so I wonder, like, that's actually a good point. Like, now that Trump and his administration have gone in, what the heck is going to happen to all these student loans, man? I'm actually very concerned about that.
They know they look like villains from Spaceballs.
Does who?
I don't know. James from Hawaii. I'm listening on the app and it closed and I reopened it because I thought there was a problem with my audio. Check out the Doge.gov website on the Wayback Machine from January 22nd of this month. Top Herky. Inspecting the Doge.gov website, he has a link to the Doge.
The people with relevant experience wouldn't touch this with a 60-foot pole. These college kids were all he could get. They'll move it into Treasury. But, like, what happens with all the people that got their stuff forgiven? Is that done?
Twitter account, but it's not properly displaying. It's like he has children working on his website. Tyler in Colorado. I work for an IG. Oh, okay. We already did that. Fat Taibbi. We need to crash the crypto market so much.
Vet recommended protection for less. Pet Armor. Protect and save.
Barb MR fan. More sarcasm, Sam. Second message was better. Thank you.
I'm not quite sure what is different on this Doge website besides the big dog logo in the first one.
The Doge.gov. Not the Doge.
That's what I'm at.
Not dogegov.com.
No, I'm at doge.gov.
Oh, maybe try the other one. Andrew from DC. To your point on lasting damage, my best friend is an attorney at the FTC. He graduated from an Ivy League undergrad and TL2 law school. I don't know what that means. His entire career has been public service. He was a senior attorney on the Kroger's Albertson suit. Oh, wow. These few weeks have been enough for him to finally field private firm offers. He's looking at roughly a 60% pay raise, and he's bummed about it. He's going to be a massive brain drain for sure, without a doubt.
Horrible.
Without a doubt. Can you blame these people? Dude's going to be making double, triple what he made.
Give me 1 second, folks. I got to take care of something.
And that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for.
Donald Trump did not go to the American people and says, I want to raise your overdraft fees. Did he? No, I don't think so.
With Valentine's Day coming up, Elon Musk is using the opportunity to ensure he gets to screw as many people as possible. In this video, I'm going to break down the various ways that Elon Musk is screwing people, including a recent gift that he just gave himself at the cost of taxpayers. And I got to wonder, at what point are Republicans going to catch on to this? Because there is a new poll out, before I get to any of the information, and a clip from Fox as well, where a Fox host, to his credit, roasted another Fox host on this issue. But before I get to any of that, let's look at how people are feeling about billionaires and Elon Musk. So Data for Progress just recently put out this poll. Voters think billionaires and corporations have too much government influence. For each of the following groups, please say if you think they are currently have too much, too little, or the right amount of influence over federal government decisions. So looking at all voters here, across the board, majorities think billionaires, corporations, CEOs, and Elon Musk have too much influence. Broken down by party, it's a little different. So Democrats, predictably, are more aware of this. Independent third-party voters as well, also very aware of this. In fact, to the independent voter credit, and third-party voter credit, they are more aware of corporations and their massive influence, as well as CEOs. But let's look at Republicans. Billionaires, good. It's not as big as it should be, but a majority, 63%, still understand that billionaires have too much influence. Corporations as well, CEOs. Elon Musk, though, is at 32%. It's hard to describe how stupid you have to be to agree that billionaires, corporations, and CEOs have too much influence in the government. Yet Elon Musk, who is all three of those things, and in fact is the richest of the billionaires, doesn't. Especially when he is standing next to Donald Trump in the White House, discussing the various things he is doing within the government. Now, to their credit, I'll get to this clip in a second, but to the credit of some of those Republican voters. They may have not realized this is Elon Musk and probably thought it was an evil Muppet, as Evan here on Twitter points out how weird looking Elon Musk is. But how stupid do you have to be to understand the influence, yet not think Elon Musk is part of that influence? I'm going to play this and then get to just some of the disgusting moves that Elon Musk has already made and a new one that just came out.
The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what the people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Yes, finally, people are going to get what they voted for, like cuts to child cancer research, cuts to the education department nearing $1 billion, cuts to the CFPB, which has saved Americans $20 billion, only costs $1 billion to run, has saved them $20 billion in relief, including reducing loan balances, erasing debt, has imposed billions in civil monetary penalties against businesses and individuals who violate consumer protection laws, penalized banks and other companies for activities such as opening fake accounts and improperly charging junk fees, banning excessive credit card late payment fees, tightening rules for buy now, pay later loans, safeguarding U.S. service members from illegal loans, and banning medical debt from consumers' credit report. This is what the people asked for. Let's get rid of these protections. The people want less protections. They want banks and large companies and CEOs and billionaires to screw them even more than they were being screwed before. Before I move on, it's amazing. Somebody pointed this out. I wish I could credit them. I forget who it was. But it was a big viral tweet. Donald Trump spent a lot of time pretending, fear-mongering that, Obama was born in Africa when he wasn't, but he spent a lot of time doing that. And here you have somebody who was actually born in Africa, Elon Musk, controlling the government. It's incredible. So before I go on to some other examples here, and the new one that came out, how Elon Musk is paying himself under the noses of U.S. taxpayers, let me get to this Fox News clip. This is a great moment here where this Fox host just dismantles the panel on what Elon Musk is actually doing.
Well, no, but wait a second. But let's just talk about one of the things that he's prescribing to cut. He wants to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Here's what it's done for the folks at home. It's limited overdraft fees at banks. It's limited credit card late fees. It's made it easier for you to switch banks. It's removed medical debt from people's credit reports so that you can actually get rent after you've been sick. It's gone after banks who've taken advantage of people.
What's your argument?
My argument here is these are things that have protected the American people every day, and Elon wants to get rid of them because it doesn't work for millionaires and billionaires. No, they did not.
Yes,
they did not vote to get.
Yes, they did.
I'm sure.
Where were you on November 5th?
Donald Trump did not go to the American people and says, "I want to raise your overdraft fees." Did he? No, I don't think so.
They made it clear what Doge was when he was running for president.
He did not go to the American people and says, "I want to raise the amount you pay on late fees." Actually, the opposite of that. He said, "I'm going to cap late fees." That's not what's happening when you get rid of the Consumer Protection Bureau. You're right. It is too late. So hopefully, American people wake up to see what's happening.
You know what?
Did you catch the end of the clip there? After Richard Fowler completely dismantles Greg Gutfeld's argument and he has no response to it, Gutfeld says, it's too late, and starts laughing. The open contempt that right-wing media has for their own audience is incredible. Many of their audience, members of a cult, essentially, fooled into this, thinking that Trump was going to help them, Elon Musk was going to help them. Here he is, understanding, acknowledging that that's obviously not the case, that they're clearly openly screwing them, and he thinks it's hilarious. I want to touch on this headline here that I brought up earlier on the CFPB, but it's worth mentioning that as Elon Musk is looking to dismantle the CFPB, X or Twitter revealed new plans to launch a payments system that they were worried the CFPB might have scrutinized. This gets to the heart of what Elon Musk is about, and it shouldn't be surprising, it shouldn't be news, but he's out for himself and his own companies. He is using the government as a way to ensure he increases his own wealth. He wants more more and more, which this is what billionaires do. They just acquire more and more wealth, where you have now a system that is completely overrun by a billionaire. I mean, I covered this when this happened, but the Federal Aviation Administrator or administration chief quit because Elon Musk pushed him out of his job. Why did Elon Musk push him out of his job? Because they were going to fine Musk's company, SpaceX, over $600,000 for safety violations. It's hard to know what to add here because it's ongoing. If you're going to be looking at government waste, maybe you would start with government contracts like Elon Musk's companies that have seen $15.4 billion in government contracts. So Tesla, SpaceX, of course, $15.4 billion. On top of that, on the other end of that, you have these investigations into all of Musk's companies, the same ones that are receiving government contracts. You would think if you're going to cut wasteful spending, maybe start with the companies that are receiving government contracts while violating the law. So as New York Times writes here, his companies have been targeted in at least 20 recent investigations or reviews, including over the safety of his Tesla cars and the environmental damage caused by his rockets. This article, by the way, is from, I believe, back in October. So I covered it back then as well. Just the ongoing investigations, OSHA violations, oversight, lawsuits, enforcement, investigations, like just on and on and on with this guy.
Oh, come on! I'm doing it really, really, really low. Big things I want.
We're a team of software engineers.
And we've had it with the outdated and overly complex tools that make it impossible to work with everyone all in one place.
So we tried ClickUp. Now we have flexibility to collaborate with technical and non-technical teams in one place and map out timelines and manage backlogs and sprint planning that helps us manage workload and get more work done, all in one tool.
Now, with ClickUp, we finally have all of our work in one place.
And this, while he is claiming NPR needs to be defunded. Yes, NPR is the problem. As Politics in the Wild pointed out on Blue Sky, around 35% of SpaceX's revenue comes directly from the federal government. Less than 1% of NPR's budget comes from the federal government. I would argue there actually should be a proper public broadcaster. The UK has one in BBC. Canada has one in CBC. They are, of course, they can be better, but they are quite useful, especially when it comes to scrutiny over corporations. So there are investigations. I covered one early this month about a CBC investigation in Canada into how grocery stores were screwing consumers by putting fake, or I should say, overweighted meat on shelves. So they were weighing the meat with the packaging, including the packaging in the weighing, and costing customers more money than they should have been paying. Those kinds of investigations are rarely done by other corporations, meaning other media corporations, because they're all corporations. It's all a big club. You ain't in it. They're all friends. So it's rare for them to investigate each other. But when you have, whether it's the BBC, whether it's the CBC, other publicly funded broadcaster newspapers, there is more of a willingness to scrutinize the kinds of moves that massive corporations do to screw the average people. But anyways, that's a side topic here. But it's just wild to see Elon Musk, complaining about like NPR, which is a speck in what the federal government spends. This gets to how he is a new way he is giving himself more money. So The Lever does great reporting. I am a subscriber to them. I'll link to this below the video as well. Musk just scored more government cash while pushing education cuts. As the billionaire was reportedly slashing education department contracts, SpaceX secured a multi-million-dollar supplemental deal from NASA, as written by David Sirota here. So before I even show you some details here, it is the brazenness to hand yourself more money while you are slashing education, slashing the anti-scam police and the CFPB, and talking about how we need to cut the government. You hand yourself more money in the midst of all of that. It just shows you how much these people know they can get away with because there is so little oversight. So as David Sirota writes here, the new supplemental contract dated February 10th adds $7.5 million to SpaceX's NASA work. The government has already committed $3.9 billion to SpaceX as part of its NASA deal, which is projected to cost up to $4.4 billion by the middle of President Donald Trump's term. The new agreement says it is for, quote, work required for the design, development, manufacture, test, launch, demonstration, and engineering support of the Human Landing System Integrated Lander. You know what? Childhood cancer research, not important. Education, not important. Ensuring people aren't screwed by the banks, not important. What is important is ensuring our Human Landing System Integrated Lander is working properly. It's wild. Also worth noting here, this is important. Trump has nominated Jared Isaacman as NASA administrator. Isaacman is a billionaire Musk associate who runs a payment processing company that is regulated by the CFPB, which, as I showed you, Musk is trying to dismantle. Another reason why Musk wants to dismantle the CFPB, one of his close billionaire friends is being scrutinized by them. They were fined by federal security regulators for not properly disclosing millions of dollars of payments to company executives' relatives. Like, it's open sale. I mean, it's not open. The sale's done. The government's bought. These billionaires own and run it. What is Trump doing? This is what he's doing. Sitting on his ass. He doesn't care. He likes the spectacle. He likes to give speeches. He does not give one F. As Walid Shahid here writes on Twitter, the media failed miserably at pressing Musk yesterday. He played the populist fighting bureaucracy, while in reality, he's handing your data and tax dollars to unvetted 19-year-olds, bankrolling his billionaire tax cut and tilting the playing field for his empire. And barely anyone would know. And don't worry, though. Consumer prices rose 3% in January. Okay. How are those cost of eggs doing? Look, many people were saying before the election that this would happen. I think even those people, including myself, are maybe a little surprised at the brazenness. I certainly didn't expect Elon Musk to be as integrated as he is, but it's here. They're doing it. So the hope is people wake up and something happens. Like there was a quote I used a few weeks ago. I think it was an AOC quote, but she was talking to Jon Stewart, saying that, when things seem hopeless, moments arise, things happen, change happens. I don't want to leave you on like the most negative note and just saying it's over. U.S. government is bought and sold. It's done. I don't think it's over. Many people are aware of what's happening. Trump's numbers already appear to be hurting. Elon Musk's numbers appear to be hurting. So that is shifting. Momentum is moving. But in terms of when things will actually change, when these people will be out, there's going to have to be an election, I suppose. But it's just, right now, it is completely insane.
With GenStudio for Performance Marketing, we can test multiple subject lines and pre-headers instantly. Let's say we're promoting this shirt. We could do it for tech enthusiasts, where GenStudio for Performance Marketing crafts copy that highlights gadget-friendly compartments, for example. But then for adventurers, it emphasizes durability and outdoor utility. With GenStudio for Performance Marketing, we're able to bring campaigns to market faster, allowing organizations to react to trends and competitor moves in real time.
So I know it's been 2025 for a month now, but
Doesn't it kind of feel like we've all been trapped in the same year forever? Like time has been barely passing at all? I mean, the pandemic feels like it was yesterday, but doesn't it also feel like it was 100 years ago? And how are we already up to Sonic the Hedgehog 3? I don't even remember Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It feels like 2 weeks ago we were all making fun of this guy, and now you're telling me I already missed the debut of Tails and Knuckles, and they've already moved on to the pervert hedgehogs for the real Sonic freaks? What the hell is going on? Now look, before you say I'm just getting old, even posters on r/Gen Z think something weird is going on. Well, you're right, small boy 2004. It does feel like time is moving a lot faster. And it's not just because you're a teeny little guy. So I've put a lot of thought into this, and I have a theory. I think it's because in the last 25 years, our culture has quietly experienced a huge linguistic shift that no one is talking about, but that has literally changed how we experience and remember the passage of time, and alienated us from each other and our own culture, all because the words we use to talk about time have changed. But before I explain, let me just remind you that I'm on tour right now with a brand new hour of stand-up comedy. The Nihilism Pivot Tour continues in Omaha on February 12th, Minneapolis on the 13th, then Chicago on the 21st, Boston on the 23rd, and then after that, Vermont, London, Amsterdam, Providence, Rhode Island, Vancouver, Eugene, Oregon, and yes, even Oklahoma. Head to adamconover.net for tickets and head to patreon.com/adamconover if you'd like to support this channel directly, and I really hope you do. So I want you to think for a second about how you talk about time these days, how you describe the era that we live in. You might call it the post-pandemic era, or maybe the second Trump administration. Or, as I overheard someone say in LA recently, you might say we're entering our fire era. Bleak. But you know, we used to have a different way to talk about the passage of time that was pervasive in our society. Up until about 20 years ago, we described the passage of time purely in 10-year chunks called decades. Remember those? The roaring 20s, the swinging 60s, and the no soup for you 90s. You know, it's difficult to overstate how much we structured our entire culture around these specific 10-year chunks. But I don't have to state it at all because you know it already intuitively. If I were to tell you to close your eyes and picture the 70s, you'd instantly think bell bottoms, big lapels, and John Travolta staying alive. If I asked you what the 40s sound...
All right. Sorry about that, folks. I had this thing on autoplay.
Great content needs a great audience.
Okay. We are back, folks. I don't know why, but I don't like Adam Conover. He's a dipshit. I mean, he's okay. Like, he's had a couple of good videos. Yeah. Stream will be back, hopefully. Yep. It's precisely why they want to get rid of the CFPB. Cruelty is the point. Random Music, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. All right, folks. Let's run through the gauntlet, okay? Let's run through the gauntlet. Thank you all for being here. Trump signed sweeping reciprocal tariff plan, says more are coming. He doesn't make bad or dishonest content. I just don't like him. Yeah, I mean, I watch Adam Conover ever so often because, like, sometimes, like, I think he made a video called "Why Billionaires Shouldn't Exist" or something like that. Like I said, some of it's pretty good. President Trump on Thursday, or at least some of it I agree with. President Trump signed on Thursday a presidential memorandum laying out his plan to impose reciprocal tariffs on foreign nations. I mean, like, it can't be understated how bad this is, not just economically, but, like, to undo all this damage to the relationships with trading partners and allies around the globe. Like, we will never, ever have the same position ever again because of this guy. Okay? Like, I'm just making it very clear. We will never, ever have the same position on the planet as we do with our allies, our trading partners, etc., ever again. Like, that's not coming back, because why would you trust the United States when it could at any point go rogue like this? and be led by someone who has no idea how tariffs work, who have no idea what he's doing, really. They charge us a tax or tariff, and we charge them, said President Trump. The president said that under the plan, the U.S. will treat other countries' non-tariff policies as unfair trade practices that warrant tariffs in response. Those include VAT taxes and other practices that the U.S. that the Office of U.S. Trade Representatives deemed to be unfair trade limitations. I'm just one EU citizen, but in my honest opinion, the U.S. and UK have proven them to be untrustworthy, and the stain will stay with until some fundamental change happens. Yeah. You already don't. They saw what happened last time, and this time it's worse. Right. So like it will never be the same as far as like how we are able to do do trades and allyships. Brexit is a direct problem for my girlfriend. She's British, but I'd be strongly opposed to readmission of the UK. We got plenty of fascists to deal with already. He also suggested that additional tariffs, including on auto imports, are on the way. We want a level playing field. VATs are consumption taxes levied at different stages of a supply chain. They are trade neutral, the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation noted Wednesday in a report accusing the Trump administration of mistakenly blaming VATs for lack of U.S. competitiveness in Europe. The reciprocal tariffs will not go into effect immediately. Trump said that Howard Lutnick, his nominee for Commerce Secretary, will lead the studies to determine the appropriate tariff level for each affected country. Lutnick said in the Oval Office that he expects more those studies will be completed by April 1st. In a Truth Social post sent after the event, Trump said his plan will include provisions for subsidies and non-monetary tariffs and trade barriers that other countries employ. America has helped many countries throughout the years at great financial cost. Now it is time for these countries to remember this and treat us fairly. Yeah, so there goes the standing across the world. Again, this is just absolute like lunacy. This is not how tariffs work. This will be in the short term and in the long term really bad. In the short term, it'll be pain, right? It'll be pain for the American consumer. It'll be effectively a sales tax. It's inflationary. And in the long term, it causes irreparable harm to the United States as in its standing. There is no reason why anybody would be doing business with us. It just doesn't make any sense. Would you? So in the long term, it's just like irreparably, the harm is irreparable. This kind of stuff is never going to go away. Some slightly, I don't even know if I can call this good news. But okay. The Trump administration falls short of federal workforce buyout. So, as you know, they attempted to get people to quit the federal government and buy them out with a promise that they will be paid until September, which is dubious and unclear how that's going to happen. That order was stopped, and then a judge allowed it to continue. However, it didn't seem to work as strong as they thought it would. And don't get me wrong, the U.S. trade deficit certainly seems concerning, though I'd have a look at it further, see if that feeling is actually justified. But this isn't how you fix that problem if it is one. Yeah, like a trade deficit doesn't always mean bad things because, like, so what? We buy more than we export? Okay. Like, that's not even, like, a concern at all, in my opinion, right? Like, so what if we are exporting more than we're importing, or we're importing more than we're exporting? About 77,000 federal employees, or 3.2% of the workforce, have accepted the Trump administration's buyout offer, said the press secretary Caroline Leavitt. The administration fell short of its 5 to 10% target, which would have required hundreds of thousands to opt in. The federal workforce exceeds 2.4 million per the White House, excluding the active duty military and postal service employees. Certain employees were exempt from accepting buyouts, like those who work in national security, immigration enforcement, and the IRS needed for tax season, which Democrats and Republicans voted for more IRS people, ? And they were, the Republicans were mad that we hired more IRS people, called them hired thugs of the state or whatever, and now they're exempt from taking the buyout. Okay. A federal judge on Wednesday lifted a pause on the resignation program, and the White House subsequently closed that offer, according to an email sent to federal employees. The administration sent out an email. The buyout offer would be over at 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Workers who took the buyout are promised pay through September, but critics have argued there's no guarantee that people will receive that money and that Congress needs to authorize the plan. Right. Because Congress, as it turns out, sets the budget because they have the power of the purse. So why would anyone believe a known liar and known con man is beyond me? Yeah. Because how would you trust that? Right? Like, I wouldn't trust that. Trump just thinks big number for us better. That's why he's trying to massively increase the incarcerated person's population. Yep. The trade deficit is not a bad thing. Right. Like, I don't know, like, what the problem is, because, like, so what if the consumerist nation consumes more, right? Because we need that cheap stuff, right? From cheap labor. So what if we consume more and not export? Like, I don't understand. Yeah, people who don't think the buyout aligned with the Trump administration's goals of requiring in-office work and adhering to higher standards, yada, yada, yada. Well, for a start, it seems a little unfair on the people who actually make these goods. But then you're not talking about, like, trade deficits. You're talking about, like, labor, right? And, like, the issue would then be, like, fixed labor laws, right? And that seems like a labor issue. So, like, so what? Well, the other side of the trade deficit is a trade surplus. Right, but again, so what? Like, even if we have a trade surplus, is that us winning? Not really. I don't know. It just sounds, it's just arbitrary. That just means you export more than you import, which means China exports mountains of goods and gets paper money in return. Right, they have a surplus. They're the ones, right? They're the ones that are doing a trade surplus. They export a lot more stuff because we're the ones buying it. Because American companies have shifted their production of said items over there. Like, okay, then sounds to me like maybe you should address the labor issue first. As far as I know, EU has a surplus to the US and a deficit. China, I'm not sure why China's doing this. Clearly, they think it's wise. It doesn't matter. They think it's wise because they can, and honestly, it's not really that, like, it's not that big of a deal if we're importing more than we are exporting, right? We let the American companies do this, so I don't know what the problem is here. We made this bed. All right, folks, pay attention. This is actually a very important article that I think needs to be talked about. Give me a second. Let me do the quick there we go. Let's get the right one. How Hitler dismantled democracy in 53 days. use the Constitution to shatter the Constitution. Sound familiar? I think Mike Figueroa, this is the article that Mike Figueroa went over briefly, but I think we're gonna do the whole thing before we get out of here, okay? We're gonna do the whole thing. 92 years ago this month, on Monday morning, January 30th of 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed the 15th Chancellor of the Weimar. In one of the most astonishing political transformations in the history of democracy, Hitler set about destroying a constitutional republic through constitutional means. Last stream I was in, we played a game covering this exact period. What follows is a step-by-step account of how Hitler systematically disabled and then dismantled his country's democratic structures and processes in less than 2 months' time, specifically 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes. The minutes, as we will see, actually mattered. You play a resistance group in 1933, 45. Is that Wolfenstein? Hans Frank served as Hitler's private attorney and chief legal strategist in the early years of the Nazi movement, while later awaiting... Like, just to be clear, the reason why I think it's so important to study this period is because it's so freaking relevant now, and I think that while I'm not, like, expecting, like, freaking, like, death camps or whatever, or straight up like Nazi mass murdering or mass genocide. Wolfenstein is a fantasy shooter theme for that time. Gotcha. We shouldn't let it get to that point. The Darkest of Times is more historical. Oh, you said the title. Sorry. Yeah, I gotcha. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in even letting it get to that point because the parallels and the way things are moving, it's way, 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 way too similar to how Hitler managed to get into power and then ultimately do the Holocaust. You lack imagination. Oh no, I'm just saying, like, this is where we're at, and I think that, like, it's different. While not exactly the same. What is it? Not exactly a duplicate, but very similar. Hindenburg is Trump and Elon is Hitler. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. That's what I was looking for. Hans Frank served as while later awaiting execution at the Nuremberg for his complicity in the Nazi atrocities. Frank commented on his client's uncanny capacity for sensing the political weakness inherent in every form of law. Hello, and then ruthlessly exploiting that weakness. Following his failed beer hall putsch of November of 23. Hello, January 6th. Hitler had renounced trying to overthrow the Weimar by violent means, but not his commitment to destroying the country's democratic system, a determination he reiterated in a legality oath before the Constitutional Court in September of 1930. Invoking Article 1 of the Weimar Constitution, which stated that the government was an expansion of the will of the people, Hitler informed the court that once he had achieved power through legal means, he intended to mold the government as he saw fit. Hello? This was an astonishingly brazen statement. So the constitutional means, presiding judge Ashley Jawol, I guess that means yes, or sure. By January of 1933, the fallibilities of the Weimar, whose 181 article constitution framed the structures and processes for its 18 federated states, were as obvious as they were abundant. Having spent a decade in opposition politics, Hitler knew firsthand how easily an ambitious political agenda could be scuttled. He had been co-opting or crushing right-wing competitors, paralyzing the legislative process for years, and for the previous 8 months, he had played obstructionist politics, helping to bring down 3 chancellors and twice forcing the president to dissolve the Reichstag and call for new elections. When he became chancellor himself, Hitler wanted to prevent others from doing unto him what he had done unto them. Though the vote share of his National Socialist Party had been rising in the election of September of 1930 following the 1929 market crash, they had increased the representation in the Reichstag to almost 9-fold from 12 to 107 delegates. And in 1932, July 1932 elections, they had more than doubled their mandate to 230 seats. they were still far from a majority. Their seats amounted to only 37% of the legislative body. 37%. That sounds awfully familiar. So Mitch McConnell is the reincarnation of Hitler? No. But he's more like, who appointed Hitler? The previous chancellor? No. I don't know who Mitch McConnell would be in this case. In this Hindenburg. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So Mitch McConnell would be Hindenburg equivalent. I don't know. And the larger right-wing coalition and that the Nazi Party was a part of controlled barely 51% of the Reichstag, but Hitler believed that he should exercise absolute power. 37% represents 75% of 51%. He argued to one American reporter, by which he meant Jesus Christ. That's actually like ridiculous. By which he meant possessing the relative majority of a simple majority was enough to grant him absolute authority. Sound familiar? He simped Hindenburg to get rule of Germany. Gotcha. But he knew that in a multi-party political system, which with shifting coalitions, his political calculus was not so simple. He believed that an empowering law, executive order, was crucial to his political survival. By passing such a law, he would dismantle the separation of powers, grant Hitler's executive branch the authority to make laws without parliamentary approval. Hello. It's hard to do equivalence. That's why history only rhymes, right? And it allowed Hitler to rule by executive order, bypassing the democratic institutions and the constitution, requiring the support of 2/3 majority in the fractious Reichstag. The process proved to be more challenging than anticipated. Hitler found his dictatorial intentions getting thwarted within the first 6 hours as chancellor. At 11:30, does anyone see like what's happening here? Like I could just literally substitute this. Also known as the Enabling Acts. The chancellor, what Hitler became, was a head of government. He was appointed by the president. Gotcha. The process proved to be more challenging than anticipated. Trump found his authoritarian intentions getting thwarted within the first 6 hours as president, as lawsuits filed in. At 11:30 that morning, he swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and went across the street to the hotel for lunch. I don't even know how to print the Kaiser off. Then returned to the Reich Chancellery for a group photo of the Hitler cabinet, which was followed by the first formal meeting with 9 ministers at precisely 5 o'clock. Hitler opened the meeting by boasting that millions of Germans had welcomed his chancellorship with jubilation, then outlined his plan, sound familiar, for expunging key government officials and filling their positions with loyalists. Yeah. At this point, he turned his main agenda, the empowering law. He would argue that would give him the time, 4 years, according to the stipulations laid out in the draft of the law, and the authority necessary to make good on his campaign promises to revive the economy, reduce unemployment, increase military spending, withdraw from come on. Purge the country of foreigners, he claimed, were, quote, poisoning the blood of the nation, a literal quote, Trump said poisoning the blood of the country, but an almost verbatim quote. You can't unsee this, right? The reason why I'm pointing this out and the reason why this article is so important is because, again, and folks, let me tell you something, to the 24 people that are here, okay? You need to spread the word in the best way that you can, okay? Because I know that it's not easy to talk to people who are entrenched in this cult. Some of them may be your family members. Some of them may be your friends. But there needs to be a massive grassroots pushback, and a light needs to be shined on what is happening here, because the broader public simply just, in my opinion, hasn't really grasped what's happening here. In Britain, a far-right shit-rag, a tabloid, put enemies of the people on the front page with judges who dared to insist that proper legal procedure is used for Brexit. Quote, enemies of the people is also straight-up Nazi term. Yeah, yep. Exact revenge on political opponents, like Trump. Heads will roll in the sand, Hitler had vowed in one rally. But given the Social Democrats and Communists collectively commanded 221 seats, or roughly 38%, the 584 Reichstag, the 2/3 vote Hitler needed was a mathematical impossibility. Now, if one were to ban the Communist Party and annul their votes, Hitler proposed, it would be possible to reach a Reichstag majority. The problem, Hitler continued, was that this was almost certainly precipitate a national strike by the 6 million German communists, which in turn could lead the collapse of the country. The collapse of the country's economy. Alternatively, Reichstag percentages could be rebalanced by holding new elections. What represents a greater danger to the economy, Hitler asked, the uncertainties and concerns associated with new elections or a general strike. Calling for new elections, he concluded, was a safer path. I've been trying so hard with my family, like, and it's completely understandable, like, you know, but there has to be, like, this has to be a all hands on deck kind of thing, right? Like, I don't know how you go about it. I can't tell you how to go about it because only you know your family, only you know your friends, or perhaps a coworker, or I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, but the point being is, like, people need to wake up. People really need to wake up and understand, like, especially the normies who have no idea of what's going on here. Like, the diehard, like, Trump supporters who are stuck in a cult, we can't save those people, okay? But the people who genuinely are ignorant, and that's not, like, a bad thing, because I'm ignorant on a lot of things, okay? Like, I'm not some freaking, like, you know, big brain freaking 200 IQ person, okay? You know, there's a lot of things in which I'm ignorant on. And that's okay. If you don't know, you don't know. But this is where we need to start really playing our part, okay? We need people to know, especially those normies who don't know what's going on. We need to kind of, like, switch that autopilot off, like Punk Rock Octopus says. We need to switch that autopilot off and be like, hello, hands on the wheel, because we're going off a cliff here. Moanap, welcome. Yeah, it is all hands on deck. The U.S. is in a really dangerous position right now. As much of the EU, mostly quite not as bad as the U.S. just yet. Hungary being the most obvious exception. Yeah. Elon met with the Prime Minister of India before Trump did. Yeah, President Elon. So that's why I'm trying to. The reason why I'm doing this is because, like, the reason why I'm doing this is because I want people to be armed with the knowledge and know how serious and how close, right? Like, again, it doesn't matter if this doesn't end up in gas chambers, okay? The point is to stop it now. Okay? And we'll teach chat self-defense, chess, and microeconomics. There we go. Economic Minister Alfred Hugenberg disagreed. Ultimately, Hugenberg argued that if one wanted to achieve a 2/3 Reichstag majority, there was no way of getting around banning the Communist Party. Of course, Hugenberg had his own self-interest reasons for opposing the new Reichstag elections. In the previous election, Hugenberg siphoned 14 seats from Hitler's National Socialists to his own party, the German Nationalists, making Hugenberg an indispensable partner in Hitler's current coalition government. New elections threatened to lose his party seats and diminish his power. When Hitler wondered whether the army could be used to crush any public unrest. Sound familiar? Ignorance is a vice. Willful ignorance is evil. Yeah, I mean, like, willful ignorance is just stupidity, right? Like, you're just willfully doing that. I didn't know doesn't count if you consciously look the other way. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, now we need to seriously wake these people up, okay? I'm not convinced, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to start changing MAGA minds. And I don't think that we as the left or any rational and compassionate and ethical and moral person, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're not like a hardcore communist or a hardcore leftist. I don't care. I'm saying a moral and compassionate person, okay? If you are a moral and compassionate person and you are watching this, okay, this message is for you, right? I don't think that we should be devoting our energy to trying to save the MAGA people, right? Some of those people might want to come out of the cult by themselves and some of those people might want to come out of the cult by themselves, and we should help those people, right, to get out of the fascist pipeline if they want to leave. We should provide an off-ramp for those that want to exit this cult, right? This death cult. Okay, but like as a general rule, I don't think that it's worth trying to preach to these MAGA people to try to convince them and try to change their mind, because it's not. This is no time for that. This is no time for that. This is no time for that. We really have to try. Again, as anyone who is just compassionate and wants and genuinely cares about people, humanity, the planet, animals, plants, we need to try to do our best to wake people up, right? A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are too busy working 2 jobs just to put food on the table, who don't know what's happening. But if we can try to, hey, Carpe, how's it going? As Carpe says, to try to educate, agitate, and organize. Now is kind of like now is the time. Like this is the biggest thing we have is pocketbook economics. How do you do, fellow compassionate and ethical people? Welcome. Nothing can enforce the court rulings, though they just ignore it. Right. Like that's exactly why I'm incredibly alarmed, and incredibly, concerned, terrified, angry, because there's no checks and balances here, folks. There's nothing. There's no guardrails. There's no obeying court orders. The body of Congress is nowhere to be found, and complicit in the consolidation of power to the executive. We're not being left with a lot of options, okay? And pitchfork time, yeah, pitchforks. And part of the reason why I'm going through this is because I need people to be very well not very well educated, but very well like understanding of where we're at, so that we can try to communicate this with the people who will listen, okay? Because we're going to need everybody, okay? We're going to need everybody. History Boy, thank you for the follow. Offer help to those who seek it and not to those who don't, right? Congress can defund the executive. Yeah, Congress can. Congress right now could form a impeachment inquiry, vote on it, and send impeachment articles of impeachment to the Senate right now. Right now, and stop this. But they're not, and they won't, because Congress, for all intents and purposes, is null. Revolution is nigh, all hands on deck. People can rise up as soon as they get a break from their 84-hour 3-job week. Well, at some point, something's got to give, right? Like, and I completely understand this, and it's also part of a concern as to like just how capital has like basically like put us in check. I don't know if it's checkmate, folks. I'm not sure if it's checkmate, but it's looking like it's check. It's looking like check, okay? And we need to do something. We need to do something like now, okay? Congress tried that twice and failed. They need more Dems maybe after 2026. Maybe. Because I'm sorry if I don't have a whole lot of confidence in the federal Democratic Party. I'm sorry if my confidence in the federal level of the Democratic Party is diminished. That just to be clear, that doesn't mean that is not an avenue that you should still try to eliminate these fascists out of power while we still can. It's just forgive me if I don't have as much faith in the federal Democratic Party. In chess, you always take out the knight. We don't need Dems, we need the grassroots Dems. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think we need fighters. I think we need people like who are firebrands like Crockett, who are out there. They're mass producing people with nothing to lose. Yeah, that's true. That's true, and it's gonna come to a critical mass. Those Dems haven't been around since the 70s. You know, it's far and few between. But yeah, eventually, you're right. Eventually, it's going to create. Eventually, they're going to create a critical mass of people with nothing to lose, because, as Cognizant points out, you know, you have these people who are struggling, these working class people who are struggling, who are really hard workers, who work multiple jobs just to keep the lights on, and they're watching this billionaire just kind of run roughshod over everything. Modern Dems need to find themselves some fire. Yep. As far as that's concerned, yes, they do. Hitler campaigned with the promise of draining the, quote, parliamentarian swamp. Where have you seen this before? President Elon brought his other kids to the meeting. Jesus Christ. Where have we seen this before? Drain the swamp, only to find himself now foundering in a quagmire of partisan politics and banging up against constitutional guardrails. He responded as he invariably did when confronted with dissenting opinions or inconvenient truth. He ignored them and doubled down. Again, sound familiar? The next day, Hitler announced new Reichstag elections to be held in early March and issued a memorandum to his party leaders. After a 13-year struggle, the Nazi movement has succeeded in breaking through into the government, but the struggle to win the German nation is only beginning. The National Socialist Party knows that the new government is not a National Socialist government, even though it is conscious that it bears the name of its leader, Adolf Hitler. He was declaring war on his own government. Yeah. He stolen from Hitler and Reagan. Yeah. Hitler's appointment as chancellor as part of the inexorable rise to power, an impression resting on generations of post-war scholarship, most of which is necessarily marginalized or disregarded alternatives to the standard narrative of Nazi seizure of power, with its political and social persecutions, its assertion of totalitarian rule, and its subsequent aggressions that led to the Second World War and the nightmare of the Holocaust. In researching and writing this piece, I intentionally ignored these ultimate outcomes and instead traced the events as they unfolded in real time, with their attendant uncertainties and misguided assessments. Case in point, in January of 1933, the New York Times story on Hitler's appointment as chancellor was headlined, Hitler puts aside aim to be dictator. Yeah, fantastic. In the 1980s, as graduate students, a student at Harvard, where I served as a teaching fellow in a course on Weimar and Nazi Germany, I used to cite a post-war observation made by Hans Frank in Nuremberg that underscored the tenuous nature of Hitler's political career. The Fuhrer was a man who was possible in Germany only at that very moment, said the Nazi legal strategist. He came at exactly this terrible transitioning period when the monarchy had gone and the republic was not yet secure. Had Hitler's predecessor in the chancellery, Kurt von Schleicher, remained in office another 6 months, or had German President Paul von Hindenburg exercised his constitutional powers more judicially, or had a faction of moderate conservative Reichstag delegates cast their votes differently, then history may have taken a different turn. My most recent book, Take Over Hitler's Final Rise to Power, ends at the moment the story this essay tells begins. Both Hitler's ascendancy to chancellor and his smashing of constitutional guardrails once he got there, I've come to realize, are stories of political contingency rather than historical inevitability. Inevitability. Ugh, I can't pronounce that right now. Hitler's appointment as chancellor of the country's first democratic republic came almost as much as a prize to Hitler as it did to the rest of the country. After a vertiginous 3-year political ascent, Hitler had taken a shellacking in November of 1932 elections, shedding 2 million votes and 34 Reichstag seats, almost half of them to Hugenberg's German nationalist. By December of 1932, Hitler's movement was bankrupt financially, politically, ideologically. Hitler told several close associates that he was contemplating suicide. Jesus Christ. 7 syllables, for fuck's sake. Don't waste your time on $10 words. True. And Reagan stole his stuff from Joseph Mitchell. If Biden had been a president, they're trying to dismantle education so the billionaires will have a future of uneducated workforce. Correct. But a series of backroom deals that included the shock weekend dismissal of Chancellor Schleicher in late January of 1933 hurled Hitler into chancellery. Schleicher would later remember Hitler telling him that it was astonishing in his life that he was always rescued just when he himself had given up all hope. The 11th hour appointment came at a steep political price. Hitler had left several of the most loyal lieutenants as political roadkill on his unexpected fast lane to power. Worse, he had found himself with a cabinet handpicked by a political enemy, former Chancellor Franz von Papen, whose government Hitler helped topple and now served as Hitler's vice-chancellor. Cool. Worst of all, Hitler was hostage to Hugenberg, who commanded 51 Reichstag votes, along with the power to make or break Hitler's chancellorship, and he nearly broke it. As President Hindenburg waited to receive Hitler on that Monday morning in January of 1933, Hindenburg clashed with Hitler over the issues of new Reichstag elections. Hugenberg's position was no, while Hitler and Hugenberg argued in the foyer outside the president's office. Hindenburg, a military hero of World War I, who had served as a German president since 1925, grew impatient. According to Otto Meissner, the president's chief of staff, and the Hitler-Hugenberg squabble lasted another few minutes, Hindenburg would have left. Had this occurred, the awkward coalition cobbled together by Papen in the previous 48 hours would have collapsed. There would have been no Hitler chancellorship and no Third Reich. In the event, Hitler was giving a paltry 2 cabinet posts to fill, and none of the most important ones pertaining to the economy, foreign policy, or the military. Hitler chose Wilhelm Frick as his Minister of Interior and Hermann Göring as the minister without portfolio. But with his unerring instinct for detecting the weakness in structures and processes, Hitler put his 2 ministers to work targeting the Weimar's key democratic pillars: free speech, due process, public referendum, and states' rights. Hey, that's very fascinating. Like, I hope people are seeing the parallels here, right? About what they focused on. Frick had responsibility over the Republic's federated system, as well as over the country's electoral system and over the press. Frick was the first minister to reveal the plans of Hitler's government. Quote, "We will present an enabling law to the Reichstag that in accordance with the Constitution will dissolve the Reich government." Frick told the press, explaining that Hitler's ambitious plans for the country required extreme measures, a position Hitler underscored in his first national radio address in February 1. The national government will therefore regard it as its first and supreme task to restore German people of unity of mind and will. It will preserve and defend the foundations of which strength of our nation rests. Yeah, I mean, like, this is not that different than what Trump talks about. The only thing, like, missing here is just, like, Germany first or something like that. Make Germany great again. You can see all these things reflected in the post-war West, United German Constitution. Of course, at the end of the day, a constitution can only delay such things to keep democracy. You need a small D Democrats. Well, yeah, you need people who believe in democracy. Like, the whole point of democracy working is because it's really, right? Like, despite all our presumptions, literally all this is just one giant social contract, right? And the moment the key people stop playing by that social contract, it's done. Yeah, MGGA, MAGA. Punk Rock Octopus, thank you for the follow. Make Germany great again was in spirit a key slogan. Hitler claimed Germany was backstabbed and betrayed and needed to be restored. Right. Just like Trump. Frick also charged with suppressing the opposition press and centralizing power in Berlin, while Frick was undermining states' rights and imposing bans on left-wing newspapers, including the Communist Daily, the Red Banner, and the Social Democratic Forward. Hitler also appointed Göring as acting state interior minister of Prussia, the federated state that represented 2/3 of German territory. Göring was tasked with purging the Prussian state police, the largest security force in the country after the army, and a bastion of social democratic sentiment. Ruf Diels, the head of Prussia's political police, was the head of Prussia's political police. One day in early February, Diels was sitting in his office at 76 Unter den Linden when Göring knocked at his door and told him in no uncertain terms that it was time to clear house. I had nothing to do with these scoundrels who were sitting around this place. A Scheidlass, or shooting decree, this permitted the state police to shoot on sight without fear of consequence. I cannot rely on police to go after the red mob if they have to worry about facing disciplinary action when they are simply doing their job. He accorded them his personal backing to shoot with impunity. When they shoot, it's me shooting. When someone is there lying dead, it was I who shot them. Yeah. The opposition press, like Baby Elon, censorship on Twitter, and the settlements big U.S. media made that are not just rolling over and capitulating, but in my opinion, also obvious bribes. Yeah. Goring also designated the Nazi stormtroopers, the Hilfspolizei, or deputy police, compelling the state to provide brown shirt thugs with sidearms and empowering them with police authority in their street battles. This would be like, say, the state providing deputization of, say, like the Proud Boys. Deals later, or well, the group formerly known as the Proud Boys. Deals later noted that his manipulating the law to serve his ends and legitimizing the violence in excess of thousands of brown shirts was a well-tested Hitler tactic. As Hitler scrambled to secure power and crush opposition, rumors circulated that his government's imminent demise. One rumor held that Schleicher, the most recently deposed chancellor, was planning a military coup. Another said that Hitler was a puppet of Papen and a backwoods Austrian boy in the unwitting service of German aristocrats. Still others allege Hitler was merely a brown shirt strawman for Hugenberg and a conspiracy of industrialists who intended to dismantle worker protections for the sake of higher profits. The industrialist Otto Wolff was said to have cashed in on his financing of Hitler's movements. Yet another rumor had it that Hitler was merely managing a placeholder government while President Hindenburg, a monarchist at heart, prepared for the return of the Kaiser. Proud Boys is more like the pre-1933 SA or SS, I'd say, but I'm sure the upgrade is coming soon. Yeah, the reason why I say formally is because their name got taken away from... they lost it in a lawsuit. I think it was the people... it was the Black Church that was... that Enrique Tarrio took and destroyed. He like took the banner or something. I think that lawsuit, they won the rights to the name of the Proud Boys. They actually took their name from them. That's why I said formerly known as. The Red Banner published a list of Hitler's campaign promises to workers, and the Center Party publicly demanded assurances that Hitler would support the agriculture sector, fight inflation, and avoid financial political experiments, and adhere to the Weimar Constitution. At the same time, the dismay among right-wing supporters who applauded Hitler's earlier demand for dictatorial power and refusal to enter into a coalition was distilled in the pithy observation: no Third Reich, not even two halves. Yeah, he took and burned a BLM flag, right, at a black church. So, yeah. On February 18th, the center-left newspaper Vossische Zeitung wrote that despite Hitler's campaign promises and political posturing, nothing had changed for the average German. If anything, things had gotten worse. Hitler's promise of doubling tariffs... Oh my god, you just can't make this up. You can't. This literally happened. Hitler's promise of doubling tariffs on grain imports got entangled with complexities and contractual obligations. Hugin informed Hitler during a cabinet meeting that the catastrophic economic conditions were threatening the very existence of the country. In the end, Vossische Zeitung predicted the survival of the new government will rely not on words but the economic conditions. For all of Hitler's talk of a 1,000-year Reich, there was no certainty his government would last a month. Over 8 months before appointing Hitler as chancellor, Hindenburg had dispatched 3 others, Heinrich Brüning, Papen, and Schleicher, from the role, exercising his constitutional authority embedded in Article 53. And his disdain for Hitler was common knowledge. The previous August, he had declared publicly that for the sake of God, my conscience, and the country, he would never appoint Hitler as chancellor. Privately, Hindenburg had quipped that if he were to appoint Hitler to any position, it would be as postmaster general, so he can lick me from behind on my stamps. Yeah. In January, Hindenburg finally agreed to appoint Hitler, but with great reluctance, on the condition that he never be left alone in a room with his new chancellor. By late February, the question on everyone's mind was, as Forward put it, how much longer would the aging field marshal put up with his Bohemian corporal? That Forward article appeared on Saturday morning, February 25th, under the headline, How Long? 2 days later, Monday evening, shortly before 9 p.m., the Reichstag erupted in flames. sheafs of fire collapsing on the glass dome of the plenary hall and illuminating the night sky over Berlin. Witnesses recall seeing the fire from villages 40 miles away. The images of the seat of German parliamentary democracy going up in flames sent a collective shock across the country. The communists blamed the Nazis, of course. The Nazis blamed the communists. A 23-year-old Dutch communist, Marinus van Lubbe, was caught in flagrant, but the Berlin fire chief, Walter Grimp, who supervised the firefighting operation, saw evidence of potential Nazi involvement. When Hitler convened his cabinet to discuss the crisis the next morning, he declared that the fire was clearly part of a communist coup attempt. Yeah. Göring detailed the communist plans for further arson attacks on public buildings, as well as the poisoning of public kitchens and the kidnapping of children and wives of prominent officials. Interior Minister Frick presented a draft decree suspending civil liberties, permitting searches and seizures, and curbing states' rights during a national emergency. Papen expressed concern that the proposed draft could be met with resistance, especially from southern states. That's funny. Which meant Bavaria, which was second only to Prussia in size and power. Perhaps, Papen suggested the proposed measure should be discussed with state governments to assure an amicable agreement. Otherwise, the measures could be seen as a usurpation of states' rights. Ultimately, the one word that was added to suggest contingencies for suspending states' rights, Hindenburg signed the decree into law that afternoon. Put into effect just a week before the March elections, the emergency decree gave Hitler tremendous power to intimidate and imprison his political opposition. The Communist Party was banned, as Hitler wanted since his first cabinet meeting, and the members of the opposition press were arrested, their newspapers shut down. Göring had already been doing his part for the past month, but the courts had invariably ordered the release of detained people. With the decree in effect, the courts could not intervene. Thousands of communists and social democrats were rounded up. Yeah, so, this kind of goes to the point of these people are not listening to court orders, and pretty soon, I could see a scenario where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to invoke the Insurrection Act and, whatever. Stop me. On Sunday morning, March 5th, 1 week after the Reichstag fire, German voters went to the polls. No stranger election has perhaps ever held in the civilized country, said Friedrich Birchall, wrote that day in the New York Times. Birchall expressed his dismay at the apparent willingness of Germans to submit to authoritarian rule when they had the opportunity for a democratic alternative. Sound familiar? In any American or Anglo-Saxon community, the response would be immediately overwhelming. You would think so, right? And yet here we are. How long ago was this? And yet here we are. How long ago was this? (1933). (92 years ago, and here we are, right? 92 years ago, and here we are. Local police refused to round up protesters on Trump's say-so. If Trump sends the army, he will get impeached ASAP. You would think so, right? No, I would say that Trump should have been removed weeks ago at this point, but is that what should happen? Yeah, I think so. I think he should be removed. Trump started an armed insurrection and tried to have his VP assassinated, and congressional reps mostly protected him. Yep. Lesson: communists are too nice. Trump started. Yes, exactly. History always repeats. More than 40 million Germans went to the polls, which is more than 2 million more than any previous election, representing 89% of the registered voters, a stunning demonstration of democratic engagement. Not since the German Reichstag was founded in 1871 had there been such a higher voter turnout. Most of the 2 million new votes went to the Nazis. The enormous voting reserves almost entirely benefited the Nazis. Although the National Socialists fell short of Hitler's promised 51%, managing only 44% of the electorate, despite massive suppression, the Social Democrats just lost a single Reichstag seat. The banning of the Communist Party positioned Hitler to form a coalition with the two-thirds Reichstag majority needed to pass the empowering law. The next day, the National Socialists stormed the state government offices across the country. Swastika banners hung from public buildings. Opposition politicians fled for their lives. Otto Wels, the Social Democratic leader, departed for Switzerland. So did Heinrich Held, the minister-president of Bavaria. Tens of thousands of political opponents were taken into the Schutzhaft, protective custody, a form of detention in which an individual could be held without cause indefinitely, or say, shipped to Guantanamo Bay indefinitely. I don't know what's happening there. Do you know what's going on in Guantanamo Bay? What's happening to those migrants, those undocumented folks in Guantanamo Bay? What about shipping, say, Antifa domestic terrorists, okay, out of the country to Bukele's Salvadorian prisons? I can't think of any case of FBI agents going out and arresting people en masse. No, but they certainly did plenty against the organizers. Well, yeah, I mean, like, now we're contending with, like, ICE, right? FBI can harass and target leaders, but they don't handle crowds. I'm thinking more like ICE acting as the Gestapo, rounding up, like, migrants and, maybe, as Tom Hooman said, you know, sometimes, you know, people just kind of get roped in. You know, if they're adjacent and we find them and we ask them for documents and, like, you know, so sometimes it just may so happen to be that you might get roped in. The same thing as going after people who are undocumented in prisons and just shipping them off to a black hole, essentially. So yeah, I could see this being a thing. Hindenburg remained silent. He did not call his new chancellor to account for the violent public excess against the communists, social democrats, and Jews. He did not exercise Article 53 powers. Instead, he signed a decree permitting the National Socialist swastika banner to be flown besides the national colors. He exceeded Hitler's request to create a new cabinet position, Minister of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda. Phenomenal. A role promptly filled by Goebbels. What a fortune for all of us know that this towering old man is with us, Goebbels wrote of Hindenburg in his diary, and what change of fate that we are now moving on the same path together. Of course we're dealing with ICE. It's winter. Yes, the FBI wasn't able to defuse the civil rights movement or anti-Vietnam War protests. They are just too damn big. I don't like the right-wing fascists of today, but I don't like the government's organization either, such as FBI, ATF, or IRS. Well, I mean, like, the prime setting is to not like right-wing fascists, period, right? It's now just doubly bad because said government agencies, like the FBI, are now co-opted and being headed by the fascists. A week later, Hindenburg's embrace of Hitler was full-on public display. He appeared in military regalia in the company of his chancellor, who was wearing a dark suit and long overcoat at a ceremony in Potsdam. The former field marshal and Bohemian corporal shook hands. Hitler bowed in putative deference. The day of Potsdam signaled the end of any hope for an Article 53 resolution to the Hitler chancellorship. The same day, March 22, Article 48 decree was issued amnestying the National Socialists convicted of crimes, including murder, perpetrated in the Battle of National Renewal. So, like, say, pardoning, a mass pardon of January 6th insurrectionists because they were true patriots, right? Men convicted of treason, or in this case, sedition, convicted seditionists, were now national heroes. The first concentration camp was opened that afternoon in an old brewery near the town center of Oranienburg, just north of Berlin. The following day, the first group of detainees arrived at another concentration camp in an abandoned munition plant outside the Bavarian town of Dachau. Yeah. Plan for legislation excluding Jews from the legal and medical professionals, such as well as from government offices, were underway, though Hitler's promise for mass deportation of the country's 100,000 Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe was proven to be more complicated. Many had acquired German citizenship and were gainfully employed. As fear of deportation rose, a run on local banks caused other banks and businesses to panic. Accounts of Jewish depositors were frozen until, as one official explained, they had settled their obligations with German businessmen. Hermann Göring, the now president of the newly elected Reichstag, sought to calm matters, assuring Jewish citizens that they had retained the same protection of law for personal property as every German citizen. Yeah. Okay. He then paraded the international community. Foreigners were not to interfere with the domestic affairs of the country. Germany would do the same, would do with its citizens whatever it deemed appropriate. Yeah. On Thursday, March 23rd, the Reichstag delegates assembled in Kroll Opera House, just opposite of the charred ruins of the Reichstag. The following Monday, the traditional Reich eagle had been removed and replaced with an enormous Nazi eagle, dramatically backlit with wings spread wide and a swastika in its talons. Hitler dressed... like this. Hitler, dressed in now a brown stormtrooper uniform with a swastika armband, arrived to pitch his proposed enabling law, now formally titled The Law to Remedy the Distress of the People and the Reich. At 4:20 p.m., he stepped up to the podium, appearing uncharacteristically ill at ease. He shuffled a sheaf of pages before beginning to read haltingly from a prepared text. Only gradually did he assume his usual animated rhetorical style. He enumerated the failings of the Weimar Republic, then outlined his plans for the 4-year tenure of his proposed enabling law, which including restoring German dignity and military parity abroad as well as economic and social stability at home. Treason towards our nation and our people shall in the future be stamped out with ruthless barbarity. The Reichstag recessed to deliberate on the act. When the delegates reconvened at 6:15 that evening, the floor was given to Otto Wels, the Social Democratic leader who had returned from his Swiss exile despite fears for his personal safety, to challenge Hitler in person. As Wels began to speak, Hitler made a move to rise, pipe and touch Hitler's wrist to keep him in check. In this historic hour, we German Social Democrats solemnly pledge ourselves to the principles of humanity and justice, of freedom and socialism. He chided Hitler for seeking to undermine the Weimar Republic and for the hatred and divisiveness he had sowed. Regardless of the evils Hitler intended to visit on the country, Welles declared the Republic's founding democratic values would endure. No enabling act would give you the power to destroy ideas that are eternal and that of indestructible. Like, I mean, seriously. Hitler rose. That's nice theories of yours here, delegate. Just proclaimed our words that have come a bit too late for world history. He dismissed allegations that he posed any kind of threat to the German people. He reminded Welles and the Social Democrats that had 13 years to address the issues that really mattered to the German people: employment, stability, and dignity. I mean, like the same thing that Trump demagogued about. Impartially, it's true, right? Like the Democratic Party, for decades, has abdicated its responsibility, right, to govern and to actually do things for the people that elected them to power. But make no mistake, like, Trump doesn't care about any of this. Where was this battle during the time you had power in your hand? Hitler asked. The National Socialist delegates, along with other observers in the galleries, cheered. The rest of the delegates remained still. A series of them rose to state both their concern and positions on the proposed enabling law. The centrists, as well as the representatives of the Bavarian People's Party, said they were willing to vote yes despite reservations that in normal times could have scarcely been overcome. Similarly, Reinhold, the centrist, that's assuring, all voted yes. Similarly, Reinhold Maier, the leader of the German State Party, expressed concern about what would happen to judicial independence, due process and freedom of the press, and equal rights for all citizens under the law, and stated that he had serious reservations about according Hitler dictatorial powers. But then he announced that his party too was voting in favor of the law, eliciting laughter from the floor. Yeah. Shortly after 8 o'clock that evening, the voting was complete. The 94 Social Democrat delegates who were in attendance cast their vote against the law. Among the Social Democrats was the former Interior Minister of Prussia, Karl Serving, who had been arrested earlier that day as he was about to enter the Reichstag, but was released temporarily in order to cast his vote. The remaining Reichstag delegates, 441 in all, voted in favor of the law, delivering Hitler a 4/4 majority, more than enough to put the enabling law into effect without amendment or restriction. The next morning, the U.S. Ambassador Frederick Sackett sent a telegram to the State Departments. On the basis of this law, the Hitler cabinet can reconstruct the entire system of government as it eliminates practically all constitutional restraints. Hello? Joseph Goebbels, who was present that day as a National Socialist Reichstag delegate, would later marvel at the National Socialists had succeeded in dismantling a federally constituted republic entirely through a constitutional mean. This is actually freaking wild. The 7 years earlier, in 1926, after being elected to the Reichstag as one of the first 12 members of the National Socialist delegates, Goebbels had been similarly struck. He was surprised to discover that he and these other 11 men, including Göring and Frank, seated in a single row of the periphery of the plenary hall in their brown uniforms and swastika armbands, had even as self-declared enemies of the Weimar Republic, had been accorded free first-class train travel, subsidized meals, along with the capacity to disrupt, obstruct, and paralyze democratic structures and process at will. The big joke on democracy, observed, is that it gives its mortal enemies the means to its own destruction. Yeah. That was Goebbels. And I think that's kind of like something that I hope people are left with, right? This quote, like once they came to terms that this like wild and out there plan actually succeeded, they just took a step back and like, you know what? Yeah, the big joke on democracy is that it gives its own mortal enemies the means to its own destruction. Yeah. I'm just saying, folks, like the normies, the people you can reach, now is the time. Now is the time, because like this is very, very, very serious. And I'm not sure what the timeline is. I'm not sure how much time. I'm not sure how far these people are going to take things. But I'm not interested in finding out. Does that make sense? All right, folks, I gotta get out of here.
Dictators in training.
Yep. After things like Waco and Ruby Ridge, I always hate the government. Well, I mean, like, the government isn't, like, believe it or not, the government isn't always the problem, right? Nixon tried to consolidate power and he was reelected in 1972. It took until August 1974 for Nixon to resign. Yeah, but like now I think this is different. There is actually consequences, kind of, to acting in a criminal manner, right? Like Nixon was removed, or resigned before he was removed, because the reason why he resigned was because they had the impeachment votes to not only impeach him but to remove him if he didn't step down. There was the mechanism put in place to take out someone like Nixon, doing criminal stuff, was working, right? Like, that's how it's supposed to work. The president was out there doing crimes. Congress told him, either you resign or we'll kick you out. Yeah, join the YouTubes. Nixon resigned rather than being impeached, which is imminent. An impeachment bill was in the works, but it was not taken up. My understanding is that they had the votes. If this went down, it was my understanding that he was going to be removed. I could be wrong, but that was my understanding, because that's why he resigned. Thanks for the stream. Stay strong, everyone. Yes. All right, folks. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. Thank you. I know it was a bit of a longer stream. We'll never know, but yeah, before he resigned, top GOP leaders told him his goose was already cooked. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you, Michael Astor, for modding the chat. Folks, if you see a diamond in chat like Carpet, please feel free to go throw a follow their way. Thank you guys for being here. If you want to support the channel, there are many different ways of doing so. Keep liking the stream on YouTube. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Substack. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. If you want to support the channel directly, check out the merch store and the ! tip if you want to support directly. Ground Level News, thank you. As always, folks, we'll be back maybe Tuesday, I'm thinking, because I don't know about Monday. But in any case, stay tuned through the Discord. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Most likely Tuesday. Thank you. I'm just me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. See ya. All right. Hang tight, folks. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you, little bot. All right, folks, I'm out of here. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.